Software allows us to interact with our computer, and it completes tasks by utilizing our hardware, transforming the processing done by the CPU into text, images, and user interfaces that we can use. Let's review the two categories which software can be divided into: system software and application software. System software supports basic computer operations, and it lets users transfer information to and from the computer. System software includes the operating system itself, like Windows, macOS, or Linux, and the operating system's file system that lets it transfer information to and from the disk, along with its schedulers that let multiple programs run at the same time. It also includes compilers, which essentially translate our programs for our computer to understand, along with communication software, which lets our computer connect to other computers and to the internet. The second category of software is application software, which lets us do much more specialized tasks. This includes word processors and spreadsheets like Microsoft Word and Excel, multimedia software for music, photography, and video like Spotify and Photoshop, games, database systems, basically all programs that we either write or download to accomplish specific tasks. So those are the two broad categories which cover most software, including computer programs, but software can also refer to tasks that are implemented through programs. For example, firmware is a type of program that is permanently burned into a ROM. If you remember from last time, ROM refers to read-only memory, which means you can read and process the program and information from it, but you can't write into it or change it in any way. If you think about a lot of everyday objects like your TV remote, microwaves, Blu-ray players, cars, and even satellites, they have firmware to complete control functions and monitoring and data manipulation. So that just about covers all the types of software you'll encounter. Let's focus in on software in computers. We can think of the different types of software in our computer as being organized in a software environment, which is essentially three functional layers of software types. The bottom layer of this software environment provides the foundation for our computer's functionality, and it includes programs that directly support hardware devices and functions. This includes something called BIOS and device drivers. Let me explain what those are. So I just talked about ROM, or read-only memory, which is permanent. Our computer's ROM contains the initialization code that essentially boots up the operating system when the computer's turned on, and the operating system then serves as the sort of first program from which we can load and execute other programs. ROM BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System, which contains programs for controlling the keyboard, display, disk drives, and other devices. BIOS is a firmware, and a non-volatile one, meaning it won't get erased when the computer turns off, unlike RAM. ROM BIOS's job is to initialize the hardware when your computer starts up, and then boot up and initialize the operating system. Okay, great, so that's BIOS, but the other chunk of the bottom layer of our software environment is device drivers. You might be a little more familiar with this if you've ever connected your laptop to a mouse or a separate keyboard or a printer, since it'll install a driver for it to work properly. In general, device drivers are just programs that control a specific type of device that's attached to your computer. So that's the bottom layer of our software environment, which serves as the basic foundation. From there, we have the middle layer, which is the operating system. The operating system's function is to provide computer access to users and support for other programs. It basically loads programs into RAM from secondary storage and then runs them. For example, if you need to finish typing an essay and need to open up Microsoft Word, your operating system runs that program and loads your essay files from your hard drive. Operating systems also allow for multitasking, so if you're running multiple programs, let's say you're typing up your essay, but you're also doing some research on your topic in Google Chrome, and maybe you're also listening to some music in Spotify, then your operating system allocates time slices to each program and automatically switches between them, basically prioritizing the jobs and swapping segments of the programs in and out of memory as needed. The operating system also maintains a file system in your secondary storage, so when you're searching for the first draft files of your essay, you might go into your school folder, and then into your English class folder, and then finally get to your essay file. The operating system is what allows you to travel through all the branches of these directories and folders. The operating system also has a set of routines, or instructions, which allow it to create new files, read from files, and write to files. The operating system also has what's called a shell, which provides a set of commands like displaying files, copying, deleting, or printing files, and executing programs. This usually takes the form of a GUI, or graphical user interface, where you enter commands by selecting items in menus or clicking icons. For example, on Mac, you can go to Launchpad or the dock at the bottom to open up a program. You can copy files by pressing Command C and pasting them into a different folder, and you can use Finder and Preview to look at your files. Similarly, in Windows, you can go to Start or the taskbar to run through the programs on your computer. You can click File Explorer to look through your file directory, and you can use Control-C and the Delete button to copy and delete files. Alright, so far we've covered the bottom layer of our software environment, which is essentially the ROM BIOS and device drivers which directly support your hardware, and then the middle layer, which is your operating system that provides access to basic computer functions and supports other programs. Finally, the top layer of this software environment is the software applications themselves. Basically, any program, whether it's a word processor like Microsoft Word, internet browsers like Google Chrome or Safari, applications like Photoshop or Spotify or Paint, or even business or scientific apps used by professionals. These modern apps all use graphical user interfaces, which basically consist of the buttons, menus, scroll bars, and tabs we're familiar with in nearly all the programs we use today. It's also interesting to note that we didn't always have GUIs like we do today. Before, there were console applications, basically where the computer displays prompts in plain text, and then the user enters responses, and then results were printed out, whether it's a number, a table, a report, or whatever it needed to be. For example, here's a simple console application that takes some basic information about how several students did on a quiz and displays some basic statistics and a grade distribution as the result. So we can see that this is not as pretty as a lot of the programs we're used to today. There's no buttons or windows or menus, it's just plain text. This right here is a prompt, so it's telling me to enter the number of students in my class. So let's just say we have a class of 10 students, and then now it's asking for the student's grade. So let's say someone studied, they got a 90. Another student, maybe they didn't study as much, got 85, still did pretty well. Maybe we had a couple C's. Maybe a kid slept through half the test and got a 45. Let's just add in a couple more good scores. Maybe someone studied really hard and got 99. And a couple more C's. And there we go. So once we have all 10 of our grades put in, it automatically gives us our result. And it's formatted as just plain text. And it's telling us, here's our class statistics, it's giving us the average, the highest score, and the lowest score, and then it's giving us the grade distribution. So we had 3 A's, 2 B's, 4 C's, no D's, but 1 F, the kid who fell asleep. So this is just a basic console application. It's showing us how a lot of programs weren't as fancy as they are today. Before, they were just plain text, and you were just interacting with your computer, kind of like having a conversation, where it's asking you to enter something, and then it's giving you some sort of result. So there we have it, all 3 layers of the software environment. The BIOS and device drivers are supporting our hardware at its foundation, the operating system is letting the user perform basic functions and supports other programs, and then the software applications on top are the programs that we use every day.